If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that on December 24th, 2024, Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14. And Harris's death on December 24th will be exactly 3,140 days after her birth, and this hints at 314. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on December 26th, 2024. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a directed energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this. And it is believed that when Trump visited Biden at the White House, Trump's Bluetooth MAC address was obtained, which will be used to target Trump with a directed energy weapon. It is predicted that on December 25th, Joe Biden will suffer a stroke. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on December 28th. Martial law will be declared in the U.S. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on December 29th, 2024. After Kamala Harris's predicted plane crash on December 24th and Joe Biden's predicted stroke on December 25th, it is predicted that Joe Biden will replace Kamala Harris with Michelle Obama as the vice president. Joe Biden will then step down. Per the 20th Amendment, Congress will vote to make Michelle Obama the temporary president. It is predicted that Joe Biden will then step down and Michelle Obama will become the 47th president, and then she will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. It is then predicted that she will step down on January 12th and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on January 28th. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. Alternatively, it could also be that the symbolic beginning to the new pandemic will be on April 1st, 2025, and that on April 20th, 2025, martial law will be declared because of the new outbreak. It is predicted that on June 9th, the day after the rapture, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens. The demons pretending to be aliens will claim to be here to help us with our nuclear weapons after Damascus, Syria is destroyed with a nuclear weapon the day before June 9th. And it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed, that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist, and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be at the end of 2026. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, and more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Make a note right now of these alternative platforms that you can find me on, in case you can't find me later. Hello, welcome. It is predicted that President Trump, will die on December 14th, 2024. As we can see here, this email was composed on December 12th, 2024. And this email is documenting the prediction that President Trump will die from a heart attack on December 14th, 2024. The post date of this video proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Prior to the date 12/12, December 12th, 2024, God pointed to December 12th, 2024, related to the death of President Trump. In other words, there are other videos on this channel that are predicting that President Trump would die on December 12th. And as I will explain, these videos and their analyses are 100% correct. The analysis is 100% correct, and these extremely important videos must be watched. The signs that occurred on December 12th that were expected in advance of December 12th confirmed all of the analysis, and as I will explain, the signs revealed adding 2 more days to get December 14th. These other videos that predicted that President Trump would die on December 12th were posted long before December 12th, and I have the email and forensic notes PDF document to document that December 12th was known many weeks before December 12th. On December 12th, 12/12, Trump rang the ceremonial opening bell on Wall Street, and Time magazine announced that Trump had been named Person of the Year for the second time. As explained in the America is Out of Time video and the America is Out of Time video, these signs on December 12th, 12/12, including Trump's ringing of the bell near Ground Zero and Trump being named Person of the Year by Time for the second time, pointed to 9/11. When 2 planes struck 2 towers that collapsed. Trump is predicted to die 2 days after these signs that included Trump being named Person of the Year by Time for the second time, and Trump being near Ground Zero on Wall Street to ring the opening bell. On 9/11, Trump called, as in trumpeted, to the local news station. The name Trump in Simple English Gematria is equal to 88, and the events on 9/11 included the story of the Heroes of the 88th Floor, the Tribute in Lights art installation that commemorated the Twin Towers was made up of 88 searchlights. According to Wikipedia, there are 88 places in America named Washington. George Washington was inaugurated on Wall Street. Trump will die on the anniversary of Washington's death, exactly 2,700 months after George Washington died. In 1 Kings 20:30, in the Bible, it was 27,000 men who died when a wall of security collapsed on them in God's judgment. Trump's first election campaign and his presidency were synonymous with his border wall of security, which collapsed in God's judgment after he left office. Trump was shot in the ear in an assassination attempt when he was speaking about the border wall of security. the name Donald J. Trump is equal to 888 in English gematria, and Trump is equal to 88, the name Trump is equal to 88 in simple English gematria. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. Trump is predicted to die on December 14th, 5 plus 5 days before Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash next to the I-55 highway in the 8th plus 8 plus 8th state to join the Union in St. Louis. The area code for St. Louis is 314. In Exodus 3:14, God spoke to Moses from a burning bush. Harris's fiery plane crash is predicted to be into Bush Stadium in the area code 314. Trump is predicted to die exactly 314 plus 314 plus 314 months after he was born. And God emphasizes a symbolic meaning of a number by repeating it 3 times. In this very important video that you are about to watch, there will be mention of signs, patterns, and connections that point to the date 12/12, December 12th, 2024. This analysis is 100% correct, and this will be proven to be correct when Trump will die on December 14th, 2 days after 12/12, when he was named Time's Person of the Year for the 2nd time. Also, make sure that you watch all of the videos that predict that Trump will die on December 12th. They are all 100% correct, and they are all very important. Hello, welcome. In this video, I want to explain something that needs to be emphasized here before this prediction that President Trump will die tomorrow, December 12th, 2024. I have made a number of videos already that date back to before this date, which is December 11th, predicting that President Trump will die on December 12th. Again, furthermore, the email and forensic notes PDF document also prove, besides this post date of the videos, that this prediction is being made ahead of time. I want to say again, I've explained this before in other videos, but it has been known since the end of 2019 that President Trump would die from a heart attack, and it would be very consequential. I hadn't any idea how consequential it would be, and it is now more it is obvious that it is more consequential than I even realized back then, because his death will lead to the rise of the Antichrist. He is not technically the president-elect yet, and that is why he is going to die prior to December 17th, which is the date on which the state legislatures have their electors cast their votes for the president. The Democrat-controlled legislatures in the swing states after Trump's death will make Kamala Harris the president-elect, and then it is predicted that she will die on December 24th, and on, and this will lead to the rise of the Antichrist, Barack Obama, his return to the White House as the president. And what I would like to just explain in this video is something in Bible prophecy that describes a period of 7 years. There's this period of 7 years ascribed to the end times and the period of the Antichrist. We get this from, for example, the most central prophecy in the Bible, Daniel chapter 9. We also have this alluded to in other passages, including in the book of Revelation, including also a half of the 7 years, 42 months, or 1,260 days, which is 42 months of prophetic months, which is a 30-day month. Okay, so when Trump dies, it will prove that the 7 years has ended. It will prove that we have already gone through this symbolic 7 years. There are, of course, people that are interested in Bible prophecy that, no offense, haven't been watching for the signs of the Lord's return as Jesus commanded, that are still expecting a beginning of the 7 years that they will and everyone will recognize. That's not the case. It was for those who were watching and for those who were wise with the Holy Spirit to recognize that the beginning of the 7 years, which was only symbolic, was Trump, God's trumpet, who he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. It was Joshua who led the Israelites around the walls of security before they collapsed in God's judgment. And Joshua led the Israelites 7 times around the walls. And then on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times. Once per day for 7 days. And then on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times in one day, while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. And then the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. This is why on President Trump's inauguration, his inauguration day, he was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. This is why Trump's presidency and his election campaigns, especially his first one, were synonymous with his border wall of security. This is why after Trump left office, the border wall of security collapsed in God's judgment. This is why 77 days after Trump's inauguration in the year ending in 7, at the age of 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old, Trump launched the 7th super prime number of missiles into the Middle East, where Jericho was, or is. This is why 73 days before his inauguration at the age of 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old, and 73 hints at 3 sets of 7, was the day that Trump was elected by 77 electoral votes, on the same day that Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, as in symbolism for the leader of the Israelites, Joshua, had been in office for exactly 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days. That day, when Trump was elected by 77 electoral votes, was exactly 73 weeks, as in 3 sets of 7, after the symbolic beginning of Trump's campaign, when he famously descended the golden escalator in his Trumpet Tower. That day was exactly 188 months after the 7.0 earthquake, and the walls of security of Jericho collapsed due to an earthquake. After the 7.0 earthquake in Joshua Tree, California. And 188 because H188 in the Hebrew concordance, in Strong's concordance, is the word woe, ! The word that means this, which is used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. That said, Trump's inauguration wasn't the only symbolic beginning of the 7 years. There were quite a number of symbolic beginnings of the final 7 years in 2017, including, for example, the eclipse that went over America and passed over 7 cities named Salem, followed by 7 years later, approximately, with the other eclipse that crossed over the path of totality of the 2017 eclipse, exactly where it peaked, over the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt, including Cairo, Illinois. This eclipse in 2024 and the one in 2017 were 7 years apart, and they engendered an X over the nation. This 7 years prophecy in the Bible speaks of a midpoint and an abomination. X's are two straight lines that cross each other at their midpoints. The midpoint date of the X that was engendered over the nation was December 14th, 2020, which was the day that the first American took the thing outside of a trial. And the thing is the mark of the Antichrist. And the mark of the Antichrist is alluded to, or rather its inverse is described in the book of Ezekiel, which would have been a Tav mark, and the Tav letter, like the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, is a symbol for something, which is the symbol for a mark. And it is an X in Paleo-Hebrew. And the thing that people took is a spiritual abomination. You see, it's all symbolism. I can tell you that this 1260 days in Bible prophecy is also symbolism. The Day of Atonement in 2024, when Trump was in Coachella, trumpeting that California had been, or was, or is a paradise lost. First of all, connected to the day that Trump was in Paradise, California after the apocalyptic fire, which was exactly 666 days after his inauguration and the Antichrist left office. But Trump trumpeted Paradise Lost in California on the Day of Atonement. There's much more to this, along with Randy Quaid on stage, who stars in the new movie The Substance, which is about what is coming regarding the mark of the Antichrist. But also Randy Quaid is an activist and the narrator for Grid Down I forget the name of the title, but it's Grid Down, Power Down or something. It's about the coming, well, he doesn't know this, but it's about a possible solar flare that will knock out the power grid, and that is what's coming, as described in Revelation chapter 8. Anyway, that day was known to be a big day since 2017, and 1,260 days prior to that was the day of the sign that confirmed all of that, which was also a date that was known since 2017, which was May 1st and May 2nd, 2021. The final symbolic 1,260 days began on May 1st and May 2nd, 2021 in Bible prophecy in Revelation 12. For example, we have this 1,260 days or 42 months period in conjunction with the description of the dragon being thrown down from heaven to earth with his minions, with his angels. That's why on this day at 1 a.m. local time on May 2nd, SpaceX's Dragon capsule with its Dragon crew splashed down at night for the first nighttime splashdown since Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was the first mission to go around the moon. The moon symbolizes Christ. The moon is a giant rock. Rock is symbolic of Jesus in the Bible. The sun is too bright. The sun symbolizes God the Father, but it is too bright for us to gaze at, but we can gaze at the sun's light reflected off of the moon. And on regarding the moon. Trump was born on the day of a prophetic blood moon lunar eclipse. And on regarding the moon, the moon signs regarding Trump. But the SpaceX crew, this Dragon crew in a Dragon capsule, descended from the second heaven. Just like in Revelation chapter 12, the dragon is thrown down from heaven to earth. This SpaceX Dragon crew was only the second one to splash down. The first one was also prophetic on August 1st, 2020, but this was the first nighttime one. Apollo 8 was the first one to winter around the moon, and when it did so, it was on Christmas, and the astronauts, to celebrate, read the first chapter of the book of Genesis to 1/4 of the planet. The first men to go to the moon. Okay, and so anyway, the Dragon crew splashed down on this day, which is hinting at the Dragon being thrown down 1,260 days. And again, we knew this date ahead of time. And again, this is amazing because this wasn't expected. It was delayed because of bad weather. And then on May 2nd, furthermore, the date was known since 2017, as I just said, but May 2nd was known since 2017 to be the final 1,260 days. And then we had, because of the 1,260 days associated with the Dragon being thrown down from heaven to earth, we had the Dragon capsule and the Dragon crew coming down from the second heaven to earth. But it was a special occasion because it was delayed, but also because of the delay, it was sped up, and it took a total of 390 minutes. And this is a number that God uses to symbolize the Lord's return. G390 in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word return, used by the Apostle James when he quoted Amos 9:11 regarding the Lord's return to rebuild his temple. The news stories regarding this splashdown spoke of how it was an expedited return to Earth because of the weather, the delay because of the weather, and the opening of weather, whatever. It took 6.5 hours, and that was highlighted in the news stories. 6.5 hours is 390 minutes, and that's why. And the reason is because it was a prophetic sign from God pointing to the Lord's return. Also, this SpaceX Dragon crew was a special crew because it had broken the record, and God uses records for signs. It had broken the record number of days in space and tied it at 84 days, which hints at the Antichrist, who was born on the date 8/4. The 216th day of the calendar year. 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. But the reason also for this record is that it was on the day of the Super Bowl when Tom Brady won his 7th out of 10 Super Bowls and became the GOAT officially after having won a Super Bowl with another team. God uses GOATs, the greatest of all time, especially Tom Brady, the GOAT of football. And that's because the ancient Jews on the Day of Atonement on the temple would conduct a ritual sacrifice involving a goat. The Day of Atonement is the 10th day of the 7th month in the Hebrew calendar, which is why on this record day of the Dragon crew in space, Tom Brady, the GOAT of football, won his 7th Super Bowl in 10 Super Bowls. Who did he win it with? Tom Brady, TB. He won it in Tampa Bay, TB, in a Super Bowl in which there was not full capacity because of the CVD disease, but he won it, and it was also in Tampa, the team that he was playing for, a coincidence also that was a prophetic sign. And what was I going to say? Yes, he played for the Buccaneers, which is a name for pirates, which is an allusion to the dragon and the minions raiding Earth after they're thrown down from heaven to Earth. That Super Bowl was exactly 6 + 6 + 6 years, or 6 times 6 times 6 months, after the pirate Super Bowl between the Buccaneers and the Raiders in 2003. The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl 6 + 6 + 6 years apart, and they won the Super Bowl in 2003 because it hints at the or was symbolic of the raid of the dragon and his angels, and 23 because the Antichrist's number is 23, the basketball president who wore jersey 23 in high school, and the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, for which a person has 23 pairs of. The reason for the coincidence of this Super Bowl that Tom Brady won, the 7th in 10 Super Bowls, on the day of the record 84 days in space by the Dragon crew, as in SpaceX, and chromosomes are in the shape of an X. The reason why Tom Brady, TB, won this Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, and it was the year of the half attendance football game because of the CVD disease. This is because the letter T is the 20th letter in the alphabet, and the letter B is the second letter, which gives us 22, or 2 and 2, and a pair of chromosomes is 2 and 2 because one chromosome is made of 2 arms, and so that's 2 and 2. And also the mark of the Antichrist is described, or the inverse of it is described in the book of Ezekiel, and it would have been a Tav mark. The Tav letter in ancient Hebrew was an X, and it is and the Hebrew letters are also symbols for things, and the Tav letter is the symbol for a mark, and the Tav is the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last and 22nd book in the Bible that has a total of 22 chapters. It is the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that has a total of 22 chapters. Now, again, the SpaceX Dragon crew splashed down 1,260 days before the Day of Atonement in 2024 in the 1,260th Browns lunation, incidentally, which is the numbering system for lunar cycles. And again, this number 1,260 is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist and the end in Bible prophecy. And there is this countdown, if you will, of 1,260 days to this Day of Atonement that began in or on May 1st and May 2nd, 2021. In the Hebrew calendar, days begin after sunset, which is why this was the first splashdown of the SpaceX, or rather an astronaut, since Apollo 8, which is, by the way, 4 plus 4, which hints at the 44th president. Well, on that same day was the Kentucky Derby. And the winner of the Kentucky Derby, was Medina Spirit. The name of the horse, Medina Spirit. It was Bob Baffert's horse. With this win, Bob Baffert, the GOAT of horse training, the greatest of all time of horse training, won his 7th Kentucky Derby, which is more confirmation that this was the midpoint of the symbolic 7 years. Medina Spirit hints at, well, Medina in Saudi Arabia, the home of the spiritual enemy, Islam, which is clearly designed to counter Christianity and is demonic in origin. In fact, Muhammad believed at first that he hadn't encountered Gabriel in the cave and believed it was a demon, and he tried to kill himself twice by throwing himself off of a mountain. This is in the Islamic holy book. I'm not making this up, but it was then his wife and his friends that said, "No, you aren't demon possessed, you are a prophet." Anyway, the truth is Muhammad was demon-possessed, and the truth is that the reason why the religion of Islam is obsessed with how Jesus is just a prophet is because it was designed by Satan to counter Christianity. Anyway, Medina spirit hints at the spirit of the Antichrist. That's why this horse was, after the race, disqualified. For what? For having taken a thing. You know what I'm talking about. A thing was used to put a substance inside the horse, which is symbolic of taking the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist. Just 2 days later, because the Kentucky Derby was a Saturday, and on the Monday, the first business day following that weekend, Bill and Melinda Gates filed for divorce in Medina, Washington State, the 42nd state to join the Union. And 42 months is 1,260 days. And of course, well, we know what Bill Gates is known for these days. And he was the big supporter of the thing during the rollout of the thing, etc. He has a big role to play in the thing. I'm not going to get into that. If you don't know that, you can find that out. And also in the Bible, judgment on a people or a nation symbolically begins at the gate. And so this was a symbolic beginning, if you will, of the final 1,260 days when divorce was filed by the Gateses in Medina, Washington State, the 42nd state. On the same day, or just 2 days after, Medina Spirit won the Kentucky Derby and then was disqualified for taking a thing, which clearly identifies or associates Gates with the thing. But it was not only that, it was the beginning of the 1,260 days, 42 months, and it was the day of the nighttime splashdown of SpaceX, and the X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. And also, the story was how the Gateses filed for divorce after 9 + 9 + 9 years of marriage. And in the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment, and this is why the number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. And God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning, hence why 9 + 9 + 9 years. I think I might have forgotten to mention the reason for the record 84 days in space by the Dragon crew is that it hints at the Antichrist, or identifies the Antichrist, whose name Obama is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, and was born on the date 8/4, August 4th, the 216th day of the calendar year, and 216 is 6 × 6 × 6. And again, the day that they tied the record of 84 days in space was the day of the Super Bowl, when the Buccaneers won exactly, well, not exactly, but 6 + 6 + 6 years, or 6 × 6 × 6 months. In other words, 216 months after the Pirate Bowl. Okay, so now I've established the prophetic signs that were missed by people that were not watching for the signs of the Lord's return. And I'm proving here that the 7 years is only symbolic. I'll also say this. The times and a half time is not a riddle. That is a clue that points to 42 months. Or rather 3.5 years. A times being 1 year, times being 2 years and a half, making it 3.5 years. It isn't a riddle for that, like everyone or most people think. It's the other way around. the 42 months or the 1,260 days is symbolism for the time times and a half time. That's because a time times and a half time is symbolism for tribulation. And God has demonstrated this through the most epic journey of endurance in history, which was the voyage of Shackleton on the Perseverance ship. No, the Endurance ship. The reason why I got the two confused is that Shackleton and his men, after they evacuated the ship, set up what they called Camp Perseverance on the ice floe. So, long story short here, it is an amazing story that God had used, and I'm explaining how he used it to prove that the 1,260 days is symbolism for the time times and a half time, not the other way around. And so once the ship was wrecked on the ice floe, everyone exited the boat and they were on the ice, and they had a test of perseverance on the ice floe. Ironically, their ship was named Endurance. And then after they decided that this wasn't going to work, they launched onto the boats into the ocean, the most dangerous ocean in the world, the South Atlantic Antarctica Ocean. And they made it to Elephant Island. Okay, so that was the second journey. That was the boat voyage. So the time on the ice floe is the time. So, okay. So the reason why time times and a half time is symbolic of tribulation is because this is how a tribulation for a person or a people typically unfolds. There's a period of testing and endurance and tribulation to overcome, and then there's a doubling of that. It gets more severe. And then after that, there is a winding down of the tribulation. But it's still part of the arduous process of going through the tribulation. So there's a period of beginning of the tribulation, then it gets even worse, and then it gradually peters out with the half time. Okay, that's what it's symbolism for. And we have this illustrated in the story of the Endurance. So let me finish the story. So the first part of, there's three parts to the Endurance again. The first part is the ice floe. And then we have the journey on the boats, on the boat. So they made it to Elephant Island, but then they had, miraculously, because the boat that they had was barely able to get them to Elephant Island from the ice floe. And it was because of the expert navigator that they were successful. I forget the gentleman's name. Then after they all made it to Elephant Island, half of the crew, six men continued on to South Georgia Island, which was far from Elephant Island. And it was a long shot that the navigation would be successful and they wouldn't overshoot the island and then be lost. They actually made it to South Georgia Island, but they made it to the south side of the island, where there's just rocky cliffs and things. The whaling station was on the north side of the island, and three of them stayed on the south side, and then the other three, so they split up again. So it's like clear distinction between the three stages. Ernest Shackleton and two other men continued on in a hike over the mountainous South Georgia island that was uncharted and full of snow and ice and glaciers and all that. And they somehow made it to the other side to the whaling station. So that's the half time. So the most difficult part was the ocean crossing. The first part was the time on the ice floe. And then the winding down was the walk across the island. All right? What is astounding also that connects this to Trump is that in 2022, Shackleton's Endurance ship was finally discovered at the bottom of the Antarctica Ocean. This is a major prophetic sign, and I'm not even scratching the surface of the details here. But it was discovered on March 5th, 2022, and then the discovery was announced on March 9th, 2022. Well, it just so happens that on March 5th, 2022, Donald Trump had to make an emergency landing in his Trump airplane. And then this wasn't learned in the news. The announcement of this in the news was on March 9th, 2022. So this paralleled the discovery of the ship of Shackleton's, the Endurance ship. Trump, in other words, is trumpeting the coming need for endurance through the persecution from the Antichrist. Now, what's also amazing as well is that this emergency landing due to a mechanical failure on Trump's airplane, which is symbolic of a ship, it was over America's southern sea, Southern Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico. Trump was flying from New Orleans to his home in Florida, in southern Florida. He was flying over the Southern Ocean of America, and then he had this emergency landing necessity, and this was symbolic of the discovery of Shackleton's ship in the Southern Ocean, in the Antarctica Ocean. Trump's aviation emergency was on the 5th of March. Likewise, the discovery was on the 5th. The discovery of the Endurance ship was announced on the 9th, and so was Trump's emergency announced on the 9th. Also, Ernest Shackleton died from a heart attack. He died from a heart attack when he returned to Antarctica. And he is buried in South Georgia Island, which is where he had the heart attack. And I assume this could be alluding to how Trump will die from a heart attack in the southern point of America in South Florida. Okay, wow. It just occurred to me, because this couldn't have occurred to me earlier, it just occurred to me that Ernest Shackleton died from a heart attack as he was making his way back to Antarctica. Trump will die from a heart attack as he is making his way back to the White House, which is why he will die from a heart attack after the election, before he is elected president-elect, on the way back to the White House, just like Ernest Shackleton was returning to his great adventure to Antarctica, which is symbolic of Trump returning to the White House. Wow. Now, to explain what's going on here. So if this is the end of the 7 years now, and Trump's death will be the last Trump sign, a phrase that the Apostle Paul used, but it also alludes to the long-last trumpet blast that the Israelites blew before the walls of security collapsed in judgment. That's because when Trump dies, it'll be a long-last trumpet blast before the walls of security of America collapse in God's judgment. We had the 7 years of warning signs, if you will. What's coming now is the judgment, the collapse of the walls of security. The 7 years was only symbolic, and it was for demonstrating much things, including the midpoint of the eclipses and the mark of the Antichrist, as I just explained. But now we have, following the 7, an 8th year of destruction. Which is why in the Bible we have this pattern of a 7 followed by an 8th. This 8th following a 7 is symbolic of new beginnings. So for example, there were 8 people on the ark that disembarked the ark after the flood. David was the 8th son of Jesse. One is circumcised in Judaism on the 8th day, following the 7 days. Jesus rose on the 8th day, the first day of the week. This is why Trump will die, and the last Trump sign will be when Trump is 78 years old. It hints at this 7 followed by an 8th. God has revealed so many things regarding this 8th year in recent signs, including, for example, the 8th named storm, the 8th storm in history named Beryl that hit the U.S. on the 8th day of the month. Beryl hinted at Barry and Barak in the Bible, which was why it was followed by Hurricane Deborah, or Hurricane Debbie, as in Deborah and Barak in the Bible. And Hurricane Debbie hit the 8th state to join the Union on the 8th of the month of August, the date 8/8, on the same day that the 88th selected in his draft announced his retirement, a major prophetic sign, which I won't explain, Nick Foles of the Philadelphia Eagles. And that day, this date 8/8, when Debbie hit the 8th state, was 88 days after the Israeli singer in the climax of the Eurovision contest sang her song Hurricane. And that date was May 12th, 512, and 512 is equal to 8 times 8 times 8. Which is why we expected the hurricane-type sign before the date 8/8, because it was 88 days after the date that was 8 times 8 times 8, and the hurricane song, and on, okay? And so, also though, the 8th year is also symbolism, because there will be a 9th year. The number 9 is the most important number in God's big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. As from the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment. This is why God has been pointing to numerous signs and symbolism with the number 79 and 1979. For example, the year of the release of the movie Apocalypse Now, which infamously cost $45 million, and that was largely because of a hurricane during the filming. Apocalypse Now is known for how long it took to make and how much money it cost. It cost $45 million. Trump is the 45th president, and when he dies, it will communicate Apocalypse Now. Other videos have explained how on the 45th anniversary of the movie that cost $45 million, August 15th, 2024, we received the Apocalypse Now signs that confirmed all of the analysis. But that date, August 15th, 2024, was also the 79th anniversary of the victory of World War II in 45. 79 is the 22nd prime number, and the number 22 symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. Again, the mark of the Antichrist would have been a Tav letter, a Tav mark. The Tav is the last and 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. And the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, in which come in pairs, and each chromosome has 2 arms. So 2 and 2, which is at 22. That's why the Lord's return will be at the end of 2026, coinciding with the fall feasts in the Hebrew calendar. It will be a 7 years and a 9 years from Trump, from 2017, and these symbolic beginnings to the final 7 years. Now, one last thing to prove this too is that Trump will die almost exactly 7 years after he announced that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and pledged to rebuild the embassy in Jerusalem. That day was December 6th, 2017. It was in Trump's prophetic first year in office. God has established this pattern of using these leaders in history, including, for example, Truman and others, surrounding the restoration of Israel in their first years. Now, Trump is the 45th president, and God's King Cyrus, his instrument regarding the restoration of Israel, is described in Isaiah chapter 45. The well-known images of King Cyrus and his particular style of helmet is why Trump has his particular style of hair. If you look at the two from a side profile, and the iconic images of King Cyrus are from a side profile, Trump's hair is mimicking the style of helmet that King Cyrus wore. Anyway, Trump is King Cyrus, a type for King Cyrus, not just a type for Joshua, but also a type for King Cyrus in Isaiah chapter 45, which is why Trump is the 45th president. King Cyrus was used by God to liberate the Jews in Babylon after 70 years. And King Cyrus declared in a declaration, in other words, a written document, that the Jews be allowed to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the house of God. Trump declared with a document, a written document, a signed written document, that the house of the embassy be built in Jerusalem. And that day that Trump did this, on December 6th, 2017, in his first year, the symbolic beginning of the final 7 years, that day, December 6, 2017, in the Hebrew calendar, was exactly 70 years after the UN recognized Israel as a state. On November 29th, 1947. That day in the Hebrew calendar, or I should say Trump's declaration after 70 years, was actually 1 day more in the Hebrew calendar than 70 years. And that's because the prophecy regarding Cyrus is, quote, after 70 years. And so Trump declared 70 years, just like Cyrus, after 70 years of captivity, sorry if I didn't make that clear, the Jews were prophesied to be exiled to Babylon by the prophets before they were exiled, and it would be for 70 years. Then we have this prayer that Daniel makes, and then the most central prophecy in the Bible regarding the 70 years, but more than just 70 years, because Daniel is praying about the 70 years because he is in Babylon. And then Cyrus liberates the Jews after their 70 years of captivity, as God promised. Trump declared that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel 70 years exactly after the UN declared Israel as a state. This restoration of Israel. And then December 12th, 2024, the date it is predicted that Trump will die, will be almost exactly 7 years after Trump's declaration, after 70 years. You see this pattern. This is more proof of what I am saying, which is that the 7 years has passed. The timelines that people are still expecting and drawing out, etc., they need to be discarded now. It's a 7 years followed by an 8th year, but the 8th year is also symbolic. It's actually a 7 and a 9. In other words, 9 years from the beginning, from the symbolic beginning, which was Trump-et. In other words, for 7 years, God has been using Trump-et, his trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. Trump has been trumpeting this 7 years of judgment warning, or warning of judgment. Trump has been trumpeting the end times and the rise of the Antichrist, which is why the rise of Trump coincided with him calling out Obama, the Antichrist. In synagogues, every Saturday, Jews read a portion of the Torah, one portion for each Saturday of the year, and they cycle through it once per year. Trump was born on a Saturday, on the day of a prophetic blood moon lunar eclipse, exactly 23 years before Israel was reborn. 23 months. That is because America is described in Isaiah chapter 23, which I explained in other videos. And that is also because the beast with 2 horns, which is synonymous with the false prophet in the book of Revelation, is a parallel, a pattern with the 2 horns in Daniel chapter 8 regarding the Antichrist and a period of 2,300 days. And the 2 horns in the book of Revelation are the UK and America, which is why the false prophet, second beast, Antichrist, who gets his power from the first one, Pope Francis, is Barack Obama, the American president Antichrist, who is the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. On the day that Trump was born, on a Sabbath, the portion of Torah that was read in the synagogues was from the book of Numbers. There's a book named Numbers. Numbers are important in God's signs. And this portion in the book of Numbers regarded God commanding the making of the trumpet. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet or the sounding of a trumpet, and trump was made on the day that God commanded the making of the trump. The Antichrist basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school. The mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, for which there are 23 pairs of. Trumpet, God's trumpet, was born exactly 23 months, moons, and was born on a prophetic blood moon. He was born exactly 23 months before Israel was born. And Barack Obama, the basketball president who wore 23, was born exactly 690 weeks after Israel was born. 69 is 23 plus 23 plus 23, and God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. And the most central prophecy in the Bible is the 70 weeks prophecy, which is broken into the 69 weeks followed by the 70th week, that is symbolic of the period of the end and the Antichrist. And that's why this 690 weeks is symbolic of this 70th week period of the Antichrist, which is why the Antichrist was born exactly 690 weeks after Israel was reborn, which was exactly 23 months after trumpet was born on the day that God commanded the making of the trump, because God has been using Trump to trumpet the arrival of the Antichrist, Barack Obama. Make no mistake, the reason for the prediction being made in this video, the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God, is to prove everything that I have said in this video. And believe me, no offense, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I know far better than you the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God, and it is to prove the things that I have said in this video, including that the 7 years is only symbolic and we have gone through the 7 years. I will play a clip that I have pre-made that I have placed in other Trump-related videos, and that will finish this video. President Trump is God's trumpet that he uses to highlight and confirm his signs. The word trump in archaic English means trumpet or the sounding of a trumpet. Donald Trump was born on a Sabbath day, and the portion of Torah that was read in synagogues on the day that Trump was born was the passage from the book of Numbers, in which God commanded the making of trumpets. Trump was born exactly 23 months, which happens to be exactly 700 days, before Israel was reborn. And God used Trump in prophetic signs regarding the restoration of Israel. Donald Trump chose his running mate, Mike Pence, and their two names, Trump-Pence, hints at trumpets. Trump's presidency, including his election campaign, was synonymous with his border wall of security. Before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment on ancient Jericho, the Hebrews blew trumpets. Before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment on the ancient city of Jericho, the Hebrews marched around Jericho's walls of security 7 times over 7 days, while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. This was a 3 sets of 7. In the book of Revelation, which describes God's judgment in the end times period, there are also 3 sets of 7 judgments. When the Hebrews blew the trumpets at Jericho, it was an announcement from God of judgment on the city of Jericho. Likewise, President Trump's presidency was an announcement of judgment on the nation of America, God's Gentile nation and the only other nation in history besides Israel that was founded on a relationship with God. This is why President Trump's election campaign and presidency were synonymous with his border wall of security, and why on the first day of his presidency, on Inauguration Day, President Trump was exactly 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old, which was 3 sets of 7, and paralleled the 3 sets of 7 in the book of Joshua. Through the symbolic very beginning of Trump's presidency, God announced judgment on the nation. Joshua, the leader of the Hebrews, led them around the walls of security 7 times over 7 days, while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. On the day that President Trump was elected by 77 electoral votes, the leader of Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, had been in power for exactly 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs. which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, trumpprediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the odyssey.com or rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.